Live. Hello, and welcome. I'd like to introduce my guest tonight. We have Ghost Prepper on, and we are going to chat it up about canning. So if anybody has any questions in the chat, go ahead and put those questions in uppercase letters so we can see them. So, Ghost Prepper, I wanted to ask you, what is the weirdest thing you've ever canned, you think?
So far, the weirdest thing, I can everything I can get into the jar. That's a hard question. I mean, I canned milk because they told me I couldn't, and it turned out perfectly fine. Um, I can everything, like literally.
Yeah.
Like if there's nothing that I won't try. I mean, I'm doing butter next. I want to do ghee, but I mean, I can, like, I make up meals that my family and I like to eat, and I can, like, big batches of soup, big batches of chili, spaghetti, sauces. But I guess the weirdest or most challenging thing I ever did was milk, and it was actually the easiest.
Yeah. You don't have like a canned good that you've shown to somebody else and they were just like blown away, like, what? You can do that?
Well, this is 2021. Most people, when you show them that you can food, they're like, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you just buy it?" And I'm
That's
like, "You don't realize that we probably wouldn't have survived as a species unless people learned how to can food, right? Not like
right.
in the temperate areas. I mean, if it wasn't for somebody inventing canning when Napoleon was trying his best to conquer the world, they all would have died. You know,
Yeah.
it's like people kind of freak out a little bit, but they're like, when they do, like, my jellies, I guess that's the strangest place, because I get really weird with the jellies. Like, I add jalapeno peppers, I spice it up. I went out and picked my own fresh blueberries, and I did a blue banero jelly that blew up. Like, I literally ran out of it. I made like 3 cases, and they were all gone within maybe 2 weeks. Like, I
Wow.
let people taste it, and they're like, I want one. I
Yeah.
mixed in habanero peppers with the blueberry
Uh,
jelly. I mashed them up really good in the my food processor. So I mean, it still tastes like blueberry, but it's got a really subtle kick to it, and it goes like insane with a sausage biscuit. Ugh,
that sounds good. All
it's
right.
delicious.
I'm gonna take a second and say hi to everybody. I was like so excited to talk to you. I didn't even say hi to any of our guests.
Don't worry, interrupt me as much as you want to. I do not take it personal. I was married. I'm used to it.
So, hey, Gil, thanks for joining us. The Best Life, Wide Family Farm, Andrew Baker, the evil twin of Gil. Hello. Let's see who else. I miss anybody? Peanuts Peppers. Hello and welcome. Boone, you're in here. Hello. Jason and Virginia, welcome to Family Homestead. Hello. And the Beehive, how are you doing? Skinner Farms is in here. We got a pretty good crowd. Bomber Steve is in here. Hello. I think that's it. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Hello and welcome. Shad just jumped in.
Uh-oh.
This is a new friend, Ghost Prepper. We're just chatting it up about canning. Check out his channel. He's newbie. He's only been on YouTube for what, a week now?
Yeah, this is day 8.
Day 8. So check him out. Got some really cool videos. So I don't know. What else you want to...
I guess
You water bath and you pressure can. You dry can as well, right?
I never really did the dry canning, because the only thing I wanted to do dry canning, I started and I stopped, and that was the dried beans and rice. When I realized that I was wasting the potential of a perfectly good mason jar on dried beans and rice when they stored just as well, if not better, in Mylar, and it frees up a jar to have a prepared meal that I don't need to do anything with. I mean,
Yeah.
the great part about canning is I can open up a jar of anything I have in the basement and eat it right out of the jar. You don't have to heat it. You still got the nutrients. But if I wasted that quart jar on dried beans, I have to open it, and then I have to use a lot of water and a couple of hours to actually cook the meal.
Yeah.
So I did the old, like, yeah, I got completely out of that. I cook everything. It's all pressure canned, and then my dry storage is in Mylar.
Yeah. And when we were on the panel, me and Ghost Prepper met over at Prepper Tribe. He's another good channel you should check out. that's where we met. And they were talking about, you had to jump off, you had to go reset your computer, but I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about the dry beans that got ruined and everything. And he wanted to know, like, he cooked them for like 24 hours and they were still hard. He said you could eat them, but they were still hard. I don't like store canned beans like that. Like you said, I think it's a waste of space. I personally can, like, I pre-can all my beans so I can just open them up and dump them in a meal, you know. So yeah, and then the Mylar bags, to me, they're just so expensive. I have all the cans around, the jars all around me that I can can, so I might as well just can them and have them ready.
Well, here's a great hack for the Mylar bags, because you can get them in all these million different sizes. Get the biggest size you can get, the 5 gallons, because all you got to do is cut them and you heat the edges and make your own size bags, and they're a fraction of the cost. But I do like my rices, pastas, and the giveaway bags. If SHTF does hit and there are people that need food, because I'm not gonna just like not try to help people. That's one of my big deals. I make special Mylar kits where it holds a pound of rice and a pound of beans.
Yeah.
I poke holes in the bag of beans to keep it separate from the rice, and I vacuum seal it with the oxygen absorber so I can just give it out. But I do. I have a whole lot of rice and a whole lot of beans in Mylar and in buckets, and then I have a whole lot of beans already cooked.
Yeah, we got somebody in the chat. Let's see. Boone is asking, "Is it true you can't reuse your lids?" I personally, I reuse my lids. And the reason being is that's the way my mother-in-law taught me. In the Depression, if you think about it, in the Depression, they didn't have a lot of resources back then, and they did reuse their lids through the Depression. What's your take on that, Ghost?
I reuse them all the time.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. What I do try to do, like I do dry can things like, and I won't say dry can. I pressure can. I use the lid, and I use a brake bleeder. I do it by hand. I don't use the food saver. I do it by hand just because in an SHTF situation, you're not going to have power. So you need to learn how to can without having power. So I do it with the brake bleeder, which is a really cool video. I'll do that one. But, things like crackers and cookies and pastas and stuff like that, it's really, really easy. I mean, it's simple. It's not really hard to do. And it's like, it even goes back to like the rice and beans. I don't do the whole dry canning thing where you sterilize the jars forever and you all that. I mean, because we all know that dried rice and beans has insect larvae in it, period. I mean, every time you eat some, you're eating bug protein. It's good for you, extra protein. But what I do is I have a separate deep freezer. When I buy, 200 or 300 pounds of rice and beans, they all go into the freezer for at least 72 hours. And then, after when I pull it out, they get sit out on the counter, spread out, and I let them come back to room temperature for at least another 48 to 72 hours. I sterilize the jar, I wash the jars really good, sterilize them. I'll put them in the oven to make sure there is no moisture involved in the process whatsoever. The product goes straight into the jars. I vacuum seal them instantly. No need for an oxygen absorber or anything like that. And then it goes on the shelf, and they hold for a pretty good while. Yeah. As far as reusing the lids, I try to use the same lid on the same product. Like if it was a dry, if I did rice, then I would use it back with the rice and I would dry can it. If I pop open a jar of chili, I'll clean the lid really good, but I'll immediately do another batch of chili with that jar. I try to keep the same jar with it just in case the seal or the rim has retained some of that flavor or something. Right. But I had one fail.
And then also you got to make sure when you're opening that after you've canned something, when you've opened that lid, you're opening it really easy and you don't make a crevice or a dent in there or else it won't reseal.
Right. So I've got pretty big hands and they fit right over, and I can get like 4 fingers on the lip, and so I'm getting it from like half the side of the lid, and I go really, really slow and pop the seal. I mean, I have bent a couple before that I over tightened them when I put into the canner at the beginning that you almost couldn't get the ring off, and it was like a miracle to get the lid off. But I learned experience that finger tight means finger tight, and let the machine do the work.
Right. And then I use a can opener, but the can opener I use is one of the old school handheld ones. It's got two ends on it. One's a sharp end to
Yeah.
puncture like the juice cans, and the other one is a rounded end, and that's what I use. And if you're careful enough, you won't bend the lid.
Another neat trick that I use sometimes is a butter knife. And if you take the butter knife and the back side where it's really thick and you sit it on the threads and
Yeah.
you go backwards till it gets really tight, you can just barely raise it and it'll pop right up.
Yeah, I've done that too when I couldn't find my can opener. I'm going to say hello. Our cabins in the woods jumped in. Drops Family Garden jumped in. Prepper Steading, hello and welcome. Nisi Tribe, hello. Thank you for coming in. I think that's everybody. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Let's see. 6 Acres Farm and Rescue. I think that's everyone.
So what's your weirdest thing you've ever canned?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it would be the chicken legs. I get like horror looks when people see the chicken wings or chicken drumsticks that I've canned. They're just like, oh, that's like awful.
Yeah, it's not very presentable, but they taste really good. I
Yeah.
mean, the way I do chicken though, like most of the meals that we prepare with chicken is really simple, really good hearty stuff like chicken and rice, or things like that. So usually I'll get like 15, 20, 30 pounds of split breast. I love the split breast because you got the skin and the rib meat and the rib bone still in it. And then
Yeah.
I'll like a couple of packs of the little broiler chickens, the whole chickens.
Uh-huh.
All that goes into a pot with onions and celery and carrots, and I'll let it cook for about half an hour. And then I'll pull all the meat out, strip everything from the bones. I throw all the skin, all the bones, everything back into the pot. And while that simmers for 6 hours or 8 hours, I can the meat.
Yeah.
But the meat wasn't all the way cooked, so there's still enough good stuff to make its own broth in the jar.
Mm-hmm.
While I've got another 5, 6, 8 gallons of bone broth cooking on the stove. So I'll do like a case and a half of chicken breast meat shredded and in chunks, and then I'll have like another 2 cases of chicken broth. And
Yeah.
I exclusively use that when I cook my dry beans because it gives extra seasoning.
Hey, MB Heritage Farm, sorry I missed you. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of a weird thing too, because like my goal was I got on the chicken stock kick, the bone broth stock and everything because I'm keto. It's really good and healthy for you whether you're keto or not. But so I started like canning chicken stock and turkey and duck.
Ham.
And I haven't done ham, and I seen that in your video, and I was like, "Oh, that's a new one to add to my list."
It is delicious. I did it this Thanksgiving and Christmas because we had 2 big honey baked hams, spiral hams.
Yeah.
And I actually canned one whole ham. Like I took one whole ham because I had extra one. I went to a turkey shoot and wanted an extra ham. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to can this whole ham. So I did. I spent the entire day canning the entire ham, and I had that bone left over. And I'm like, well, now I'm making ham broth. So I did the ham broth, and the next batch of pintos that I did and black eyed peas, dried ones, I did those in the ham broth. I added no salt, no pepper, no nothing. I just did the ham broth, a little bit of water, and the beans. They were amazing.
That sounds good.
And I discovered another new bean that I've never heard of before. I'm sure you guys probably have, but I've never heard of it. I saw it in the store, and I'm like, what is this? It's called a cranberry bean.
Nope, I haven't heard of it.
It's called a cranberry bean. It's a strain of a pinto bean. It's a break off of the pinto. It's got a little bit more spots. It's a really pretty bean. It is so good. It's actually better than pinto. It's a pinto, but it's called cranberry, and it's got a sweeter taste to it. It makes a really good chili. I mean, it's awesome bean. You got to try it.
Yeah, I'll have to try it. I personally don't eat beans because it's not part of the keto, but I can up all the beans for my husband, so that will be a new one for him. Prepper Steading says, my wife canned a mule, and it was good.
She canned what?
A mule.
A meal? She canned one meal?
A mule.
A mule. Go, yeah. Okay, Prepper Steady. I should have known that was coming from you.
I can't say I've ever tried mule before, but
Probably
If
tastes a lot like a horse.
if it was, I've never tasted a horse either, but if I can it, I'm sure I'd try.
That'll probably fit in with your keto diet, so you're good.
As long as it's meat. And that's another thing, you were talking about jellies and jams and stuff. I have not been able to critique that for keto. Like, instead of using sugar, I use stevia, and it won't thicken up like sugar does. So
Right.
still playing around trying to figure that out. I did do dandelion jelly 2 years ago, and if I put it on the shelf, it's liquid. But if I store it in the refrigerator, it's thick. I'm like, what the heck? So it's weird. So I don't know. I'll have to figure out something with.
You mentioned dandelion, and I can't remember who I was talking to about it. We were talking about something about prep, and I'm like, you do realize that you can go in your front yard, and when you pull that little flower and you blow all the white things off, that plant that it comes from is a salad, right? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's the same stuff you pay $5 for a little package at Whole Foods. You can eat that.
Yeah.
That's a salad. The entire plant is actually edible.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did it in the Depression too. That's what they made coffee out of, the dandelion root.
Mm-hmm.
At least my mother-in-law did.
Yeah, I think the actual stem can be used for it's medicinal. I think it actually has like a pain killing thing to it. It's kind of like got a milky substance to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. Let's see. Prep Setting says, I'm not joking. It was gifted meat from a friend.
You go, buddy.
Drops Family Garden says, yep, you can eat the leaves too. Yeah.
It's a salad. People pay a lot of money for that fancy restaurant.
Have you tried eating them?
Me?
Yeah. Have you tried to eat the leaves?
Absolutely.
I've put them in my salad and they were bitter.
The salad at a nice restaurant that you pay $12 for, I guarantee you there's some in there.
Yeah. Just trying to catch up on the comments. River Rock Homestead jumped in here. I didn't see them. Hello. Welcome. Kinfolk Farms in here. I feed the dandelions to the chickens. And that's the thing about the ham you were talking about, the ham broth that you're canning. The reason I never thought of it is because I guess after Thanksgiving or Christmas, when we do ham, I always give it to my dogs. That's like a big no-no. But it's like, I love my dogs. They're part of the family. They have to have Christmas and Thanksgiving too.
Yeah. I usually make like a big crock pot full of, I call it ham bone soup. I'll get some navy beans and throw in there with it, and potatoes, and make a big thing of ham bone soup, and then I have plenty left over for the broth for the ham bone.
And don't you think it's like crazy? Like, you used to go into the grocery store and be able to get bones like that. Like, you'd get to get ham hocks or whatever. Or you'd get beef bones that you could make your stock with. You go into the grocery store nowadays, you can't get that stuff.
No, and you know, back just 10, 15 years ago, you can go in the grocery store and get a thing of ham hocks, and it was like 50 cents for like 4 of them. Now they're like $5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we always use the ham hocks to, you know, season beans and stuff like that. But, you know, the prices on some things are just getting crazy, and they're just going to get worse. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I got into canning, is because today, right now, here today, is the cheapest you're ever going to buy food. It's never going to go down. It's always going to go up.
Right. And if you can get into canning now, you can really save yourself and your family. Like, and it makes me really sad because, like you said, you know, you tell people nowadays that you can, and they're like, what? You do what? That's crazy. They're like so shocked by it. But it's like, if you don't do that, it's like a dying trade. Nobody does it anymore. Like, it's a really talent, a skill that you need to learn.
It really very important. It's like I said earlier, we probably wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for the discovery of canning food and being able to preserve food. I mean, look at what they did back in the dark ages. Like, through the entire winter, they just ate bread.
Yeah.
Literally. Wheat. They ate bread, like nonstop bread. I mean, come on. That's nuts. I mean, canning is, it's I could not imagine being a successful long-term prepper and not canned food on my own, because it saves so much money versus just buying everything canned.
Right.
I trust the stuff I can more than I trust the canned food that you get at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
I really do. I know what's in it. And the
Yeah.
great part about canning is, you can also throw in different things to it. I mean, everybody's like, how much salt should you prepare for the end of the world? Well, I mean, I keep about 25 pounds per person in my household of salt, non-iodized salt, back
Yeah.
up in the bags, in Mylar, put away. But also, everything I can gets a teaspoon of salt in it. I'm that way. If I could literally go without adding any extra sodium to my diet and get my dietary requirements just by eating my canned food.
Yeah.
Like when I look at a quart jar of something I've canned, I'm like, that's got me through the entire day.
Mhm.
I mean, it might be a little bit calorie deficient, but there are supplements that you can also have canned, as far as your dry canned stuff, your snacks, things like that. But like I could function an entire day on a good hearty meal. That's like most of my stuff is soups, chilies, hamburger soup with vegetables in there with it. It's got the sodium. I try to make it as well rounded as humanly possible, and that's why I do like the spaghettis and things, because a lot of people don't even know, like with rice and pasta, the only reason we put it over heats to speed up the process. You can literally just put water on it, let it sit overnight, or let it sit for a few hours, and it's done. I mean,
Yeah.
all you're doing is rehydrating it. You're not cooking it. You're just rehydrating it.
Right. Kinfolk Farm has a question. Jess, question. Once you reach a goal, do you always stay on keto? Just asking because I know nothing about it. Yeah. My keto, I've been on it 8 years, and I've been at 150 pounds now for 5 years. I'll never go off of it. Now, I'll speed you up a little bit, Ghost. Have you ever heard of keto? You know what it
Yeah,
is?
a very good
Oh,
friend, been on it for a couple of years now.
okay. So, I just don't eat sugar or starches or carbs, or
Right.
I should say no man-made carbs. So yeah, so when you talk about the noodles and the beans and stuff like that, I don't really can that for myself, but in a situation where, shit hits the fan or whatever, I'm gonna I'm not gonna be choosy. I'm gonna eat what I can eat. Like,
It's like, Angry Pepper and several peppers, don't like Spam. I mean, is Spam my favorite meat? No. But, and I've even heard, but, when it hits the fan, you're going to eat what you got to eat. I've even heard people say, only prep the stuff that you like. Well, I would say primarily prep the stuff that you like. But if you find something good on sale or something that's calorie dense, like, something that'll save your life, like the things that you don't like, Spam, things like that, get it anyway, because worst comes to worst, you're going to eat what you got to eat. You're going to eat to survive. I mean, nobody would think in a million years that you're going to eat another human being, but look how many times throughout history that's happened.
yeah, and it's in the Bible too that there's going to be cannibalism or something along that lines in there. I can't quote the Bible, I'm sorry, but there's stuff in the Bible that scares me, and I'm like, I'm not going to be one of those. I had a really hard childhood where we went without eating. I'm not going to be one of those people. When I learned how to can, I ran with it. I will never starve again in my life.
Here's the thing. I tried to tell Tribe this too. I said, here's the thing, because he wants to get started in canning. He said he's scared. I'm like, what are you scared of? Just do your first batch. Pick something easy. Pick something you literally can't mess up.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It looks technical because the equipment that you need to have, but it's really not hard. If you can tell time,
Yeah.
you can stay awake and pay attention, you can can food, and you can successfully can food.
Yeah.
I've only lost 3 jars in the entire time I've been canning. One of them popped in the canner, and I know why it popped in the canner, because a friend of mine was over and they put it in the sink, and there was silverware inside of it in the sink, and I'm pretty sure it got scratched and it popped. I had one just didn't seal for some reason. I don't know why. Only time that's ever happened, and it happened 2 weeks ago, and I've been canning for years. And then I had one, I lost the seal in the back of a U-Haul driving, over 1,000 miles when I moved, and which was a shocker. I figured I'd lose maybe 10% of my load, but I lost one in the back of a U-Haul. So, I mean, as long as you do it right, you follow the instructions, and you do it the way it said, it's very safe. It's very economical. You save so much money doing it. It's like tonight. My parents live with me. They're both in their 70s. And I went and asked them, what do you want for supper? Mom's like, I want chili. Well, you know what? I didn't have to go to the stove and whip out all the stuff and make chili or go to the grocery store. I just went downstairs in the basement. I grabbed a quart of chili and I came upstairs and put it in a pot, heated it up. We're done. Door's over. Quick, easy, 5-minute meal.
I think meat is the easiest thing to can. I think that's the easiest and quickest thing to start with. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely meat. Definitely meat. I started with meat simply, and it was luck of the draw. There was a brand new grocery store opening up right down the street from my house. Sprouts. It's a health food grocery store in Florida. I don't know if they're up here or not, but they're like super expensive stores. They're like Whole Foods on steroids.
Yeah.
And sent out the sale paper, and they had split breast chicken for 99 cents a pound. And over the next 4 days, me and my father went in there and bought up every packet they had. Like 99 cents a pound for split breast chicken. Yeah. That's like less than half price. That's like 40% normal price. And yeah, that's what I started canning was the split breast chicken. That was 3 years ago? Yeah, probably 3 years ago.
I have a couple more questions that have been brewing. What kind of canner do you have? What's your brand?
All American 921.
Okay, and I use a mirror. Have you ever heard of that? MIRROR. Yeah, it's a mirror.
Presto.
Nope.
I've heard of Presto.
It's back from my mother-in-law's day, but it's heavy duty and it doesn't have all the knobs that the All American has, but I really like it.
I went with the All American because of Gilbrook Farms, that homestead channel that I watched that got me into canning. And that's what she used. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to follow her instructions, I'm going to follow her instructions.
Yeah.
And I found it on sale. I got a really good price on it. And I'm like, ship it on over here. Now, if it was up to me, I would have went with a bigger one, because I can only do 7 quarts at a time in this thing.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to build up the stock that I have. But if I had to do it over again, I'd get the bigger one where I can actually do 16 quarts. It holds 8 on the bottom and 8 on the top.
Right. I have 2 of the mirrors, and they both hold 7 quarts. So I do double batches at the same time. But I looked into a couple years ago getting an All American, the stackable one. I looked into that on Amazon. I was like, whoo, that's spendy. So that one day will be on my bucket list.
They're pricey, but I'm over the moon with the way that it performs and the way it works. I mean, the dial gauge is dialed in. I mean, it's really good, and it's got the jiggler. They're dialed in. I've never had an issue with it. It does what it's advertised. It's thick. It's heavy duty. It's heavy. It's solid as a rock. I mean, it'll be around for centuries.
See, and I've never canned with a canner that has a dial. The only thing I have is my weight.
Yeah, I mean, I go by the weighted gauge. I use the dial just to, like, I can look at the dial and see about where it's at. And I know that, hey, I can go sit down and watch, 5 more minutes of TV before I got to come in here and adjust the temperature. But the dial also comes in handy when because I've done every single batch of my canning on a glass cooktop stove. Like every single batch on a glass cooktop. And they say not to, but it works perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah.
But, like the new stove here in the house that I'm at now it's like on steroids. It's got like the double burner on one side. So normally it takes half hour to 45 minutes to bring it up to pressure on a normal stove. On this one, I can do it in about 20 minutes. Like literally, I put it on high and I'm blowing steam 10 minutes later. It's insane from cold water.
Yeah.
But I can literally can on low with this stove. It's crazy. Awesome. And the dial gauge comes in handy because it shows me if the pressure is going up really, really fast or if it's peaking.
That's pretty cool.
It's you just kind of got to look at both of them because they are off a little bit. Like it'll actually get to about 11 and a half pounds of pressure on the dial gauge before the weighted gauge starts jiggling. But I mean, I've had nothing but success with it.
Yeah. Skinner Farms is asking, have you ever tried Instapot canning? I guess.
No, I have an Instapot. I received it as a Christmas gift. Actually, my mother did. We've used it a few times. The only time I used it was to hard boil eggs, and they were the most amazing hard boiled eggs I've ever done in my life. They were insane. 2 minutes done over, and literally the shells just fell off. It was crazy. But as actually pressure canning in it, no, not because I don't think it will work, because it probably works really well. The only reason I haven't tried is because it's not going to fit anywhere near the capacity I want to do pressure canning. And the system that I'm using now works really good. I've used it for 3 years, and I'm in a routine with it. It's like second nature.
My theory is if it's not broken, don't
Right.
fix it, Here's a question on the screen for you.
Bro, Wild Family Farm. Did I miss the story? The oldest video is from 5 days ago. Yeah, my channel's only been a week. I've only been here a week.
Yep. Oh, the other question I had for you, I'm going to look in the chat again here in a second, but the other question, you were on a live earlier today, and you said, if I remember correctly, something about you haven't canned rabbit meat, but you want to.
I'm getting into breeding rabbits. I've got my cages built. I'm setting that up, and I'm getting my breeding pair, and I'm going to start raising rabbits for meat, because rabbit meat's the healthiest meat on the planet. It has 0 cholesterol. It's nothing but protein. You can literally starve to death if all you eat's rabbit.
Yeah. And you haven't canned it before?
No. I think rabbit's delicious.
That's what you were talking about, the texture of canned foods. You said chicken is the same, if you...
Chicken stays legit. Chicken stays chicken.
Well, rabbit does too.
Yeah, does it? Great. Yeah. I was hoping so, because rabbit meat and chicken meat taste very, very similar.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, they can the same too. They don't lose any texture or flavor. But yeah, I agree with...
I plan on producing, because one female rabbit can produce in excess of 100 pounds of meat a year from her kids. So I plan on producing 300 to 500 pounds of meat a year, for myself. And I'm actually going to expand it and grow extra to sell at the farmer's market, or to give away at neighbors, or to barter if things get crazy.
Yeah. I personally haven't canned goat meat, Gil, but I know I haven't even ate goat meat. My husband gets attached to my goats, so I'm not allowed to dispatch them. Even though I want to, he won't let me. Have you ever done canned goat or ate ghost? No.
I've eaten goat. I've never canned it. Yeah. I've eaten goat, but I've never canned it. I ate a lot of sheep when I was in Scotland in the army. I'm not really a big mutton fan.
Yeah, I don't care for it either.
Yeah, I guess it's an acquired taste. If you grew up eating it, it works. But yeah, I'm not. The whole mutton thing doesn't work for me.
The goat, does it taste like deer, like people say?
Yeah, it's pretty close, actually. It's not, the texture is different, and it's not as, I wouldn't say gamey. It's you're not eating deer, but it's good. It's really good.
Yeah. Skinner Farm says, I've never canned meat. People are talking they don't like goat meat. Have you canned any seafood, any fish or anything like that?
No, my fish that I grew in my aquaponics system, I had them staggered when they were growing, to where I would harvest once a month, and I would harvest anywhere from 6 to 12 fish once a month, and we would usually eat, once a week we would have a couple of fillets. So that what I was harvesting, the way I had it staggered was that I could harvest once a month, and that would feed us for the month, having a fish meal once a week.
Yeah.
I like things to make sense when I do it. My potatoes that I'll be planting here very shortly. I've got 55 gallon drums cut in half, and I'll plant 2 on the first of a month for 4 months, because it takes potatoes 4 months to grow out. And so I have 8 barrels, and every month I'll flip 2 barrels over, I'll harvest, and I'll replant those barrels. And so every month it'll be like a conveyor belt, where every month I flip them, I'll pull a handful out to seed, 3 months later, they're ready to be, and just have it where it rotates and you never have to buy potatoes again.
Yeah, that's a great system. The Beehive Homestead is, I'm like echoing now. Ask if you have your own chickens.
I can't hear you. Your voice disappeared. It was fine when you were sitting back, but when you leaned up, it went away.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. The Beehive wants to know if you have your own chickens.
No. I grew up always having chickens. I don't have them here. I didn't have them in Florida because I didn't have enough room. I don't have them here yet. I'm looking into getting them, but I'm also considering, because there are several places around here, people around here that have chickens. I would rather, instead of trying to do everything, if I knew somebody who was really close to me that has chickens, good laying chickens and meat chickens, and I'll do the rabbits, I'll just focus on the rabbits and barter.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
That way it makes the most of my space.
Let's see. There's another question. I guess that was that. Courtney, do you have a plan to call your rabbits? How are you going to call your rabbits or dispatch them?
Kill board.
Okay.
Y'all, does your audience know what a kill board is?
I don't know. They might not.
It's basically, you just find a really sturdy wall, and you're going to mount a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. Say it's a foot wide and maybe 2 foot long, and you cut a V in it, a gradual V, and you just slide the rabbit's head on the top and the body below it. You just grab its bottom legs and you snatch it really hard, and it instantly kills it. It's completely painless. It's better than hitting them with a bat or shooting them in the head. So yeah, I plan on doing a kill board.
I do the broomstick method.
The broomstick. What happens if you miss or just graze it? Doesn't it make you feel bad?
You put the broomstick on. You put a broomstick across its neck.
Oh, I thought you were talking about swinging it.
No, and you stand on it, and then you pull up.
Yeah, it's the same process as a kill board.
Yeah. There was another question. Down under. Thank you for coming in, Darren. I know there was another question. Now I can't. Where are you located?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in North Carolina, on North Carolina, South Carolina border, near Rockingham. Central Southern North Carolina. Previously Florida, but I'm originally from North Carolina. I just moved home.
Oh yeah, they're talking about save the sterile water for wound care. Do you can any water? Ghost?
No, I have a readily accessible freshwater supply, and Berkey. I actually did a video on that yesterday on building your own very cheap Berkey. So, and Berkey water filters out pretty much everything. And also, I'm building a rainwater collection system here, like I had in Florida.
Now, I do can sterile water with gauze inside of it, or washcloths for hopefully nothing ever happens. But if I need sterile wound or anything,
that's a really good idea. Wow, I can't believe I've never heard of that or thought of that.
Yeah.
You just put the gauze in the water and sterilize it. Can
it? It's sterilized. It can sit on your shelf forever, and you have sterilized water and gauze.
That is a really good idea. I'm gonna have to do that now.
That's the awesome thing about canners, just bounce ideas off of each other.
Well, now I have to. I mean, when you do that, it's like you call me out, so you kind of got to.
Well, that's another thing. Like in your canning video earlier that you posted, you had canned flour.
Oh yeah,
canned your flour, and I'm trying to figure out, because I don't eat flour. I do almond flour, and that's what most of my diet. You know, if I want to eat bread, it's made out of almond flour. I'm trying to figure out if I can actually dry can almond flour to make it last longer, because you know nuts, they go rancid.
Yeah, there's a high oil content, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to play around with that. I was being a rebel, and I made some zucchini bread out of almond flour, and I canned it.
Mm-hmm. No,
No, I left it on the shelf for like 2 weeks. Came back to it, opened it all. It was rancid. It was moldy. It was nasty. I'm like, well, that doesn't work. So
That
I'm
didn't work.
yeah, I'm kind of scared to see if I can dry can the almond flour. I don't know. It'll be an experiment.
It's gonna just depend on the oil content in the individual nut. I don't know. I mean, because there's several things you can make flour from, but with you being on your diet, I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't know either. And I buy, like, I stockpile on it. It's in the I have bags and bags of it in the freezer. But if the freezers go out or the power goes out, then what?
Yeah, I have a solar generator specifically for the freezer and the refrigerator. Um, it's a Energy K2. Works phenomenal. It'll run the freezer or the refrigerator for like 3 days on one single charge, and I've
Yeah.
got solar panels that charge it up in a few hours. Um, but yeah, the flour was a challenge because my whole thing about doing the dry canning is I wanted to do it without having to rely on an oven to do it. That's why I did the whole brake bleeder thing. And like I said before, I put the flour in the fridge and the freezer. It goes for 72 hours. I sit it on the counter for another 48 to 72 hours till it comes back to room temperature and there's no chance of moisture. And then I put it in the quart jars, and I took a coffee filter and put it inside the jar on the top of the flour. And then I put the lid and did the brake bleeder so it wouldn't suck all the flour up through the hose. It
Oh,
worked
smart.
perfectly fine. Yeah, it
Yeah.
worked
Um,
perfect.
Skinner Farms is asking. He said he came in late. Where are you located? If you're close enough, maybe we can help each other.
Skinner Farms, I am in Rockingham, or just outside of Rockingham, North Carolina.
Tyrannical Covers came in. Hello and welcome. I'm sorry, I have a really hard time saying your name. Renaissance Homestead, hello and welcome. Trying to catch up on this chat. It's so hard to read the chat and be on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance says, I canned some almonds and they seemed okay after 9 months. That's as long as I've tried it. Okay, I will try that then.
That's a pretty good stretch because
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure almonds don't have that high of a oil content like other things, other nuts.
Well, maybe that's what I need to do is can the whole nuts. And if I want to use them as flour, then I can grind them down.
I wonder if you roasted them really good beforehand, if that would get rid of some of the oil content and then grind them down.
I don't know.
That might be a good research thing.
Yeah, it would. Whole nuts will keep longer than the ground mill. This is a good stream. Thank you, Nisi Tribe. Have you tried vacuum canning flour? I have not.
Yes, that's what I just talked about.
Yeah.
With the brake bleeder.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was so easy to do. I mean, you just pop the lid on, stick the hose, you pump the brake bleeder like 10 or 15 times, and it seals. And I mean, those seals, the more you pump it, the more it's going to pull the air out. And those seals are so tight. Like literally some of the lids that I've ruined were from opening my vacuum sealed stuff, not my canned stuff. I mean, they're sealed. Good.
Yeah. All right. Renaissance Homestead said that she should mention the almonds were still on the shelf. That makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. That's the challenge being on a diet or a different lifestyle. Keto, there's certain foods that I eat, and it's a challenge trying to figure out how to store them long term.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I can put them in the freezer and stuff like that, but I'm thinking more long term. If we don't have gas or we don't have power or, the gas to put in our generators, then what?
That's another reason why I got this property, because I have the house is heated with natural gas. The electricity is obviously electricity, but I have a 500-gallon buried propane tank out back. And then I just purchased my new generator a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to convert it to a dual fuel generator. so it runs on natural gas and gasoline, and then I'll wire it to the house, and then I'll have it to where I can either run off gasoline or propane for the generator. And the propane actually runs my hot water heater. So I have 3 different sources of power in the house. So the hot water heater is propane, the heat pump is natural gas, and the lights and the stove and stuff is electricity. But the great part is that even my solar generator will run a good portion of that by itself without using the gas generator. So there's options there. Plus I have a fireplace too for additional heat.
Yeah.
So,
and I've thought about that too. Like, I have a spring on my property. Like, if I was able to build a spring house or something, not saying that I can't, but if I could build a spring house over that spring, that would be like ideal. Then I wouldn't have to worry about stuff going rancid. But yeah, that's quite a big chore.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, honestly, you could just get a 55-gallon drum or some good thick totes and just dig down 2 feet and bury it. Because once you go down past 6 inches, the temperature stays ambient. It's just like having a basement.
Yeah, that's true. I just gotta get somebody to dig that hole for me. There ain't no way I'm doing it with my back.
You're in Ohio. You got to get through that permafrost.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the sun never shines, so somebody's got to hold a flashlight so you can see what you're doing at noon.
Yeah, White Family Farm, they have a basement too. I get so jealous. I'm in a trailer, so like when I see other people's basements, I'm like, oh, you know.
I scored pretty good on this joint, especially since it's a full basement, and the other side of the basement is like a root cellar. I mean,
yeah.
I was like, I looked at the house and I'm like, I'll take it. Like literally 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't need to walk through the rest of it. I've seen all I need to see. I'll take it.
That's so funny. And it's funny too, like canners. That's the first thing, you see a basement. You're like, what can I put down here to make this a canning room or a cellar?
I mean, a lot of people don't understand how awesome a basement is. Like I was literally in my basement, maybe a month ago, and it was 21 or 22 degrees outside. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt building my rabbit cage. I mean, it literally stays about 64 to 68 degrees down there nonstop all day, all night. It stays the same temperature.
Yeah. So everybody that's put in comments, Tiana Cool-Cover, sorry, can't say your name. You and Gail about the nuts. I've been reading the comments, and I thank you so much. I'll be able to go back and look at those comments too after the live. So I've got a lot of great ideas now I can try. Voon saying that she has a basement and it's like a horror movie. It's really scary. Let's see. White Family Farm, I have an old pump house room as well, and it's a great cool spot for root veggies.
Like your root veggies, it's like what we said before. You can literally just put them in a galvanized trash can or something like that and just bury them.
Yeah. The very first year that I got into gardening 10 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. You'll find this funny. And I put out radishes, and my radish harvest was like amazing. I had so many radishes, I didn't know what to do with. So I started, researching online and stuff, what to do with these radishes. And one of the videos I followed, they put the radishes in like a plastic tote, like the Christmas totes, and they said that they put like pine shavings in there. They put the radishes in there, and then pine shavings, and then radishes, and then pine shavings, and you put it in a dark, cool place. So that's what I did. Oh my goodness. A couple months later, I opened that thing up. I was like, what in the world? That was like my first gardening and I guess preserving experience with radishes.
Well, what happened? Because I've never done that before.
They turned into liquid. It was the nastiest smelling thing I've ever smelled in my life. It was just brown liquid in the bottom of that. It was horrible.
So you threw away the tote and everything.
Yeah, there was nothing left. There was nothing left in there. It was all water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it completely gone. It was gross. And then I started canning radishes and turnips and stuff like that. So that's how I preserve them now.
That's one of the cool things about when I learned about when I did my aquaponic system is I did celery, and I had I think I had 4 things of celery, and I would just go out, walk out the back door because I had it on my back porch they call it a lanai in Florida. It's screened in, so it was great for the pests and stuff. It was awesome. And I would just go outside with a knife and I'd cut off a couple sprigs of celery, cut it up, do a salad, do a stew or whatever. And every time I'd go get more celery, it kept getting bigger. It doesn't die. Celery. Like you can go to the grocery store and get you a whole thing of celery and come home and cut the bottom 3 inches off with the roots and put it in the dirt and it'll start growing.
Yeah.
Like I don't think celery ever dies.
That's awesome.
Like ever.
That's awesome. I know you can do that. I have actually grown celery that way, but I didn't know it would last forever.
I mean, I don't know if it does last forever, but I had the same 4 in my system for 2.5 years, and they were massive. Like, I actually pulled them out and voluntarily killed them because they were those along with my collard greens were just ruining my system. They were like breaking stuff because they were getting so massive.
Yeah, your collard greens are insane.
Cut through it. Yeah, they were huge. They were massive. I ate collards off the same plants for 11 months in the summer in Florida. 110-degree weather, collards that are supposed to be a winter crop.
Yeah, that's insane. Nisi's asking, is the water you can like distilled water, and do you put gauze in the water and just put them out and use them? All my water is spring water, so it's fresh water. So I don't have an issue with canning that water. And then when I put the gauze in, I try not to touch the gauze, touch the wrapper, and that's it. Put it in the water, put the lid on, and can it. And
how long did you can it for?
I don't know. I have to look at my notes. I don't remember. It's been a long. When I did it, I canned over like 20 jars, and
yes, I know if you go past a certain point on pressure canning, I think it's an hour. There's no need to sterilize it because it kills everything.
I think I canned them for like 35 minutes. I think that's what I did them for, but I don't know. I have to write everything down because I can't remember. I have a notepad of everything, like.
But I can peaches, pears. That's one thing a lot of preppers forget when they're putting up their food is fruit. Like fruit is really, 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 really important if you plan on living. I mean, you need to get those vitamins in there. So I do a lot of peaches, a lot of pears. Those are wicked important because I've seen several prepper pantries and there's like no fruit. I'm like, dude, you've got to have fruit. You have to.
Yeah.
I think they call it scurvy.
Yeah.
You've got to have fruit.
If I'm correct, I can't remember, but I think blueberries was really good for scurvy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I've still got like a case and a half of blueberry jelly, grape jelly. A lot of people don't know this. The Welch's grape jelly that you buy in the store that you make, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with. If you just get the Welch's grape juice, 100%, not concentrate, it actually tastes better if you make your own jelly at home. Like not even a little bit better, a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't know why, if their process is different and they do different stuff. But yeah, I've done the white grape, the peach, the blueberry, strawberry jams. I do my homemade applesauce with brown sugar and cinnamon. If I can get it in the jar, I'll try it.
Do you do apple cider vinegar?
Haven't done that yet. Want to.
Yeah. That would be a good one to do too, because apple cider vinegar is an antibacterial, anti-fungus, everything.
Oh, yeah, it's super healthy.
Yeah.
You put that in the water for the rabbits. Put that in the water, drink it yourself.
Yeah, I drink it every morning. I give it to my chickens. I give it to everybody. The only one I can't convince to drink it is my husband.
Just don't tell him. Like mix it in with his coffee or something.
Oh yeah, he would know for sure. Drop says I stock a lot of apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
Yeah, I have quite a bit stocked. Apple cider and white vinegar.
Hey, that's the milk that you can, is that from the grocery store or is it from a farmer?
Straight from the grocery store.
Oh, okay. Have you ever heard of, I was talking about this a couple weeks ago or a week ago on the live, kefir, milk kefir. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I've heard that term.
It's really good. Most people don't know what it is either. It's like a grain. The kefir, it's called a kefir grain. When you get a chance, look it up. It's really good for your gut health. It's I'm trying to think. It's a probiotic, or it's not a probiotic. It's a prebiotic.
Right.
So it's really healthy for the gut. But Darren says, yuck. It's so good. But when my cows are in milk, I will put the kefir grains in there. And what it is it's like a little bit, it's like drinkable yogurt. It's a little bit thinner than yogurt. But the cool thing about it is you can put your fruits in it. You can make, blueberry kefir, strawberry, or whatever, make it homemade. And it is really good.
Yeah, a lot of people overlook how important it is to have your gut healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I was in the military and we go overseas, the first thing we would do is eat the local food. And then we would spend 48 hours, 72 hours being sick until we got that local bacteria and stuff in our gut to be able to deal with the food and process the food. Because one thing you don't want to do is actually be in the field or doing a mission and the sickness kicks in. Then you want to get it out of the way at the beginning and go ahead and you want to get your gut climatized just like you get your body climatized to a new environment.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing on prepping and stuff. What people don't realize, like, the healthier you can get now, the better you're going to be in the long run.
And it goes across multiple species. A lot of people don't realize this too. When you're buying seeds that you're going to plant, you want to buy local seeds. You want to buy seeds from your area because your seeds are actually climatized to your area. Like if you buy tomato seeds from Washington or California or New York or something and try to plant them in Florida or North Carolina, you're going to get varying, if not horrible, if not bad germination and very bad results and even worse production. You want to buy local because your seeds, the plants, they store genetics just like the human body. I mean, that's how you can crossbreed and all this good stuff. So you want to buy local seeds to where you are because they're going to produce better. They're going to live longer and produce better because they're hardy and they're already climatized to your area where you live.
Drops Family Garden says, I planted the Yakima today. Supposed to have a lot of probiotic qualities too. Drops, where are you located? I forget. Let me know. Have you heard of the Yakima?
I don't even know what that is.
It's like it's a root crop. It looks like it's supposed to be a replacement for potato. It's supposed to be lower carb than a potato. I looked into it and I actually got seeds last year or the year before last, and I planted them last year without researching them or anything. I just chucked them in the ground, and I end up finding it's like, I can't remember. It was like a really long time for them to even come up and germinate and stuff. Me and Wide Family Farm were talking about it the other day, and it needs a really, really long growing season, like a long one. West Spokane, yeah. So you need to look into that before you plant them because I never got anything off of them. They're still in the ground. Maybe they'll come up this year. I don't know, but I know they're from really, really warm climates.
Yeah, it does a lot of good. You got to research what you're planting. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I got rose seeds. I was going to plant some rose bushes from seed. I didn't realize that you had to put those seeds in the freezer and simulate a winter before you planted them. It's like, what? I was like, that makes no sense to me. You're talking about a child at the time. So, seeds are weird. They're like people.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like in Ohio, our ground is so rich and fertile. You know, I really have never had to like study or research. I just throw those seeds out there and the stuff pops up. I've never really had a problem. And then like this year, really started digging into the gardening knowledge and trying to learn stuff. And people are talking about seed stratification, like you're talking about with the roses. And I'm like, what's that? Like, I've never heard of that. So I'm like learning all kinds of new stuff this year.
Yeah, it's like a perfect example. It's like the seeds that you plant up there where you live. If you sent me some and I planted them, they probably wouldn't grow. And even if they did, they probably die because they're not used to seeing the sunlight.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, and that was a joke, but you know,
Yeah.
some like seeds that are used to getting like massive amounts of sunlight or intense heat. If you took those seeds from Florida and took them to New York or anywhere else and planted them, they would like really freak out and go into shock. They would probably grow. The fruit would probably be smaller, but you can manipulate that. It's like I grew tomatoes all year long in Florida in the wintertime. And then in January and February, there were several days where the temperature got down into the 40s, low 40s, which would typically, and we even got frost a couple times, which would typically kill off a tomato plant. But I really quick went outside and threw the plastic tarp over them and kept them alive. But they got shocked. And that's actually a good thing for a fruit, especially tomatoes, because when you shock a plant, their natural defense is to produce more sugars in the defense. And it made, like, all my tomatoes, they were smaller than normal in the winter, but they were so sweet. They were the best tomatoes I ever ate, which completely blew my mind. I didn't know that was how it worked. I just didn't want my tomato plants to die.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like plants, when they get stressed, they produce sweet. It's like some plants, like I think I can't remember. Is it collards? There's something about collards. Yeah, it is collards. That when you pick them, you're supposed to put them in the freezer for a day and shock them with the cold and then cook them. And it makes it produce more sugars to make it sweeter and more tender.
Huh.
Hey, weird.
Now I have no experience in collards because I don't like them.
Oh, I love them collard greens. What are you talking about?
I got a lot of people around me that are like, oh, they're so good. I'm like, nope, they're not for me.
What? That's like awesome. Collards. Yes. Collards, kale. Oh, yeah. I love kale. Love collards, Swiss chard.
I love Swiss chard. I just
How do
don't
you
like
like Swiss chard and not like collards?
I don't know.
All right. Here's a question. Have you ever ate collards?
Yes.
Okay.
But I guess the person that fixed them for me, it was like really, really spicy. So.
Yeah. You cook them normal and you add the spice later. Your pepper vinegar or something like that.
Yeah, so I just assumed I never tried growing them because I remember that memory, like they were nasty.
They're so good. A little bit of vinegar oh my goodness. They're so good, especially with bacon grease and onions. Oh.
Now, with the bacon grease and the onions, I might be down.
Well, see, the way I do collards, and everybody makes fun of me. It's like even when I was in Florida, like when I would do collards, they would freak out. There's and I'm not being racist by any means. I'm a 240-pound, 6'2" white guy, and I go in there, I get collards by the case, like the whole carton. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. What, you got a restaurant? I'm like, no, I'm going to go home and make some collards. You know how to make collards? I'm like, don't even go there, man. I'm from North Carolina. I was raised in South Carolina. Yes, I know how to make collards. But I saute the onions and the bacon in the bottom and the grease, and then you pile the collards in on top. But a lot of people will cut their collard greens with scissors or with a knife. And I'm like, what are you doing? No, you got to rip them. Because when you rip them, you're pulling all those veins apart and you're opening up the leaf. You're just you're shredding them in like a 3D format so it can soak up everything. If you cut them, you don't get that same effect. So you rip them with your hands and you shred them and you throw them in there on top of the bacon and on top of the onions. Then you add your water or chicken stock, whatever you're cooking in. You put that lid on there and you leave them alone. You don't stir them or nothing. You just let them cook down and keep adding more water and stir them towards the end. So all that good stuff cooks up through the leaves. Oh, it's delicious.
So is that how you can them too? You go through that cooking process and then can them?
Yeah. I mean, I don't go through the complete cooking process. I do the seasoning, everything. I let them cook down, and then I put them out and put them in the jars because they still got to go for a while in the jars. So I don't want to overcook them and
Yeah.
ruin the nutrients. But like the collards that I can versus fresh collards, obviously they don't taste the same and the texture is a little bit different, but they're still really, really good. They're better than any canned collards you're going to get at the store.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I might like it better if it's canned.
You might, I mean, if they're prepared correctly, and then always have the hot pepper vinegar, and pour that over at the end right before you eat them. That's always the kicker. That's the good stuff.
Yeah. Popper Prepper just popped in and joined us. Says collard greens are amazing.
Yeah, there you go. That can be a meal.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I don't like them. But like you said, like the Swiss chard, I can eat that like crazy.
I mean, the Swiss chard obviously has a different flavor and a different texture, but it's hard to think that somebody that likes the leafy greens wouldn't go for collards.
Yeah.
That maybe it was the way they were cooked. Like I like the collards with, sometimes I'll throw a ham hock in there with them when I cook them. Lots of times we'll have them with pintos, black eyed peas, a ham steak. They're delicious. Love collard greens. Oh.
Yeah. What about kale? Do you like kale?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing too. I like make kale smoothies, kale and spinach and stuff.
Here's a good one for you. I used to bodybuild. Younger, I was a lot bigger. I was like 275 to 265, 270, 275. And that's when I blew my neck out. And I also had to have shoulder surgery. I tore everything in my shoulder. And I knew I was going to lose weight. And I was like, but I still want to be fit. And I wanted to lose some weight because I was carrying a lot of extra weight. I wanted to drop down. And I saw this video on Netflix called Old, Fat, and Nearly Dead. And it was a video a guy from Australia or New Zealand made about juicing. And I watched the video. I'm like, holy cow, I got to try this. So I went and bought me a juicer, not a mixer, but an actual real juicer. And I started juicing. And I went on a juice diet. And I didn't eat any solid food. I just juiced 3 times a day. I juiced 3 times a day through Thanksgiving and Christmas just to see if it worked. And I lost anywhere from a pound to 2 pounds a day, every day for 30 days.
Wow.
I was the healthiest I've ever been. I've ever felt in my entire life. And I never ate solid food for the entire month. And then I went back to eating solid food when I got to the weight that I wanted to be at, and I've maintained it. And the main thing that you juice is so healthy is kale. That's the green stuff. The green juice is really good. Oh my goodness. Yes.
I can't say that I've ever juiced. I don't.
You can watch that video. It will blow your mind. This guy had diabetes, high blood pressure, some kind of a crazy genetic disease that required him to take all these steroids. He had a table in front of him, and he had like 50 or 60 bottles of medication that he had to take every single day. And by the end of the video, after the weight loss, he was off all of his medication. He was his diabetes went into remission just by juicing. And after he did the whole juice diet, nonstop, nothing but juice, no solid food, he backed off of it and then went to eating like 1 meal a day and then juicing twice. And then he backed off to where he would just juice 1 meal a day and then eat normal food for the rest of it. And he stays to that. As far as I know, to this day, he still juices 1 meal a day, and then he's into his solid foods, and he's still healthy.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome, though. I'm gonna have to watch that.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah, Boone says she's seen it too.
It's crazy.
Darren wants to know his gravy juice.
Yes, it is to me. Sausage gravy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we've been going for an hour. I think I'm gonna call it quits. I know we got Native going live, and I think you wanted to make it over there, didn't you?
Yeah, I like hanging out with Native.
Yeah, he went live, so he's going now. So I want to thank you for coming on and chatting it up with me, and I really had a good time. We'll have to do it again. I love talking canning. So,
I'm always available. Hopefully next time I'll have my canning kitchen done in the basement where I can make you really jealous.
oh yeah, I will be so jealous. I want to thank Down Under Farm and Forage, your back hurting. Yeah, my back's hurting pretty bad. But I want to tell everybody in the chat, I want to thank you so much for coming, stopping out and hanging out with us, meeting my new friend Ghost. Hopefully you see him around and you go subscribe to him, and hopefully he'll come back on the panel and see us again. So
Absolutely.
I hope you all stay happy, healthy, and safe, and we'll see you soon.